Europe, the continent that today boasts the highest human development indices ever seen, offers a quality of life that is truly unique not only because of its safety, but also due to its purchasing power and other factors that benefit its population. In 2019, all 20 of the countries with the highest human development in the world were European, and more than 90% of Europe has a very high Human Development Index. Throughout its history, Europe has maintained higher indices than other continents, so much so that it colonized much of today's world. Knowing this, it becomes clear how they managed to reach the level they are at today. To discuss European history, we must begin by addressing some intrinsic factors. First, its geographic location greatly facilitated its development, as it is situated between Africa and Asia. This positioning meant that Europe was always at the crossroads of large consumer markets, where new cultures, and most importantly, products not found in those other continents, were introduced. In this sense, Europe's location was extremely advantageous, serving almost as a mandatory gateway to the continent. It is no wonder that the Silk Road led directly to Europe's doorstep, from which routes into the heart of the continent began ensuring that all the technology traded among Europeans, both big and small, reached there, alongside a huge demand for commerce. Moreover, its location with features that were extremely unfavorable for that southern region only served to strengthen Europe. It had to progress for survival, being situated much farther from the equator than most other places. For example, almost all of the United States lies in a more temperate zone. Essentially, compared to regions like Africa and Asia where people had it relatively easy thanks to fertile soil and warm climates, Europeans needed rather complex agricultural technology to make the land productive enough to feed everyone. They also had to learn to survive the harsh European winter. When you have sunny beaches and live near a sea teeming with fish, you aren't exactly forced to develop such complex solutions. Europeans had to learn how to produce steel, care for livestock, manage farms, and build solid yet welcoming homes and cities to accommodate everyone. Beyond its geographic position, the Saxons, the Danes, the Iberians, and many other peoples who settled these territories always developed a culture of fragmentation. Despite sharing common origins, they divided into various tribes and later evolved into different kingdoms. Europe has always had this culture of fragmentation, which was certainly one of the main drivers of its development. This wasn't something planned or something anyone back then would have thought would benefit the future. It was pure competition. In medieval Europe, there were indeed many kingdoms, each with its own distinct technological and cultural developments. At that time, dozens upon dozens of wars and conflicts were constantly taking place across the continent, and out of a sheer need for survival try to outdo their adversaries more, and more military and infrastructural technologies were developed. We see this concept even today when we compare major tech companies. Imagine if Samsung hadn't innovated, it would have easily been overtaken by its competitors. It's exactly this survival instinct that keeps the development of new technologies moving forward. If innovation were to stagnate, that company would surely lose many customers and eventually fail. This same survival factor drives the creation of new technologies and benefits, as Eric O.L. Johnson's advisor once described it as the state system. He noted that despite the political divisions and the many wars among the kingdoms, development ultimately triumphed over them all. The widespread political and religious fragmentation didn't just mean small audiences for intellectual innovators. Europe offered an almost integrated marketplace of ideas, where the continent's greatest thinkers and scholars could thrive. The extensive circulation of intellectuals was evident. For example, Louis Vives, a great humanist leader, studied and later spent much of his life in Flanders, and he was a member of Corpus Christi at Oxford. This shows just how integrated and mobile intellectual life could be back then, allowing ideas to spread rapidly and Europe's development to accelerate. The more ideas and innovations a country has, the faster it develops. In this sense, Europe's intellectual community enjoyed the best of both worlds, the advantages of an integrated academic environment coupled with a competitive state system. Therefore, had Europe not been located so far north, if its geography hadn't posed so many challenges yet simultaneously favored its agriculture and settlement, it might never have become the economic and social powerhouse it is today. What we learn from this is that hard times and dire situations often drive the development of new solutions to overcome them. Perhaps this is also why the prosperous times Europe has enjoyed over the past centuries are now beginning to lead to economic stagnation.